As industry came of age in the young United States, the Civil War coming to a close kicked industrialization into high gear. Wealthy and smart men were lured from politics for a chance at gaining wealth in the growing industrialized economy. Congress granted railroad companies more than 155 million acres with which to build, track, and expand the transportation network. During the late 1800s, the railroad expanded from 35,000 miles of track to a whopping 192,000 miles of railroad track. The addition of railroads gave the surrounding land a chance to prosper as well. The tracks brought passengers and traffic through the land, while towns skipped by the railroad slowly slipped from existence. However, companies tried to hold land from other railroad industries due to the checkerboard distribution of land, but Grover Cleveland stepped in to stop this withholding of land by the railroad company. The battle for the Transcontinental Railroad was settled when the South seceded and the North claimed the railroad line. The company elected to build the Transcontinental Railroad stole over $23 million of grant money in the Credit Mobilier scandal. Cheap Irish and Chinese labor was used, and many workers perished with feuding Indians trying to stop the progression of the railroad. The construction was backed by Leland Stanford and Collis P. Huntington, who used their political power to continue the construction of the railroad. In 1869, the Transcontinental Railroad was completed in Ogden, Utah. After this construction, the North had a new 1,086 miles of track, while the South only gained 689 miles of new track. Before 1900, 4 other cross-country railroads were completed. The Northern Pacific Line stretched from Lake Superior to the Puget Sound. The Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe lines stretched through the Southwest deserts. The Southern Pacific Line ran from New Orleans to San Francisco, and finally, the Great Northern Line ran from Duluth, Seattle, across the nation, and was laid by James J. Hill, one of the greatest railroad builders of the time. Banks who endorsed the men building these railroads often went bankrupt due to the overestimation of the land value the lines ran across. As the railroad progressed, many achievements were made, such as the steel rail track and the air brakes. Also, luxurious passenger cars were made, along with block signals to improve travel.
For the first time in its history, the United States was joined together from coast to coast by railroads. These transcontinental tracks not only joined the two coasts, but also linked together the markets and the economies of the coasts. After the Civil War, railroads allowed for industries of America to boom. Railroads were built next to farms to make the export of goods into the cities that much easier. This was done with mining as well. Railroads also changed the time system of America. Before, time was calculated different in each city by the position of the sun. But after the boom of railroads, the United States of America was split into 4 time zones to standardize scheduling of the trains. With the great success of the railroad system came corruption and extortion. Seeing how much money could be made with railroads, owners became greedy and started to tamper with the system. Most notably was Jay Gould. He would boom the stocks of his railroading business and sold stocks to investors at an extremely high price, basically lying about the worth of his business. With the owners proclaiming the railroads were worth the outrageous amount of money, managers of the railroads were forced to charge more money for the trains, and the public became outraged. As well as corruption, owners would maximize profit by joining forces with another railroading company and splitting the profits. This was known as pooling. In about 30 years, from the 1860s to the 1890s, the United States went from the 4th-ranked industrial country in the world to the 1st, and seemed easier than ever to obtain the American dream. Railroads opened up so many opportunities for jobs, and new resources in the Midwest of America would soon be discovered and would make many people rich. The railroading system also inspired Europeans to immigrate and take jobs in the Midwest of America. With the booming industry came the booming of new inventions. The most notable of the inventors of America was Thomas Edison, who created the light bulb, as well as the phonograph and the moving picture. With the expansion of the railroads came the expansion of many positives for the American economy.
Competition became a huge part of the American industry at this time. Giant industries tried to eliminate all sources of competition to maximize their own profits. 2 leading industry giants of the time were Andrew Carnegie and John D. Rockefeller. Both of these men used different methods in order to eliminate their competitors. For example, Andrew Carnegie used a method known as vertical integration to eliminate competition. Vertical integration was a method that meant Andrew Carnegie controlled all aspects of the industry. In Andrew Carnegie's case, This meant his own company mined the iron, transported it, refined it, and turned it into steel. On the other hand, John D. Rockefeller became a master of horizontal integration. Horizontal integration was a method that was much more widely used, unlike vertical integration, because horizontal integration allied with or bought out competitors to monopolize their own market. John Rockefeller used his method of horizontal integration to form the Standard Oil Company, and he had great control over this oil industry by forcing weaker competitors to go bankrupt. Andrew Carnegie and John Rockefeller became known for their trust on Wall Street and their corporate monopolies. During Lincoln's presidency, steel was very scarce, and production of steel was very expensive. By 1900, Americans produced as much steel as England and Germany combined. These newfound productions of steel was caused by a process called the Bessemer process. This process was turning iron into steel faster and was named after an Irish-English inventor, even though an American named William Kelly had discovered it first. During this same time period, America had become a leading nation in production of coal, iron, and other essential materials for steel making. And with time, America became number one in steel production all around the world. All of the world's leading production companies started off small. For example, Andrew Carnegie started off as a poor man in a bad job, but by working hard, he worked his way up into wealth. Andrew Carnegie started his company in the Pittsburgh area and eventually became a national and even international corporation. By 1900, Andrew Carnegie was producing 25% of the nation's Bessemer steel, earning him $25 million a year. J. Piermont Morgan was an even larger industry giant than Andrew Carnegie and John D. Rockefeller. But J. Piermont Morgan was part of the banking industry. J. Piermont Morgan made a fortune on Wall Street, but Andrew Carnegie threatened to ruin him and his industry. In a strange twist of events, J. Piermont Morgan bought Andrew Carnegie's entire business for $400 million. Once J. Piermont Morgan took over Andrew Carnegie's business, he launched the United States Steel Corporation in 1901, which became the first worldwide million-dollar corporation and eventually turned into the first billion-dollar